But if you and I choose to live from a place of love, compassion, and kindness, it opens doors for us.
What's the best relationship advice you've ever heard?
Make a list.
A life is a tragedy in close-up and a comedy in long shot.
Here's how you start a charcoal barbecue.
11 things people learn too late in life.
Okay, besties, it's been a while since we've done relationship advice.
How do you lead effectively?
Hope that you'll use that telephone number right now and call in.
Have you ever seen that video of the ant and the pen?
No.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning to everybody here in Waterloo. Good morning to everybody watching in Kitchener and Chatham online. My name is Pete. I'm one of the pastors here, and we're in this series. It's a fun summer series. Okay, so if you're looking for like less fun, just come back in November. It'll be no fun at all. Okay, we'll just be serious and studying. But this is a fun summer series called Scrolling for Wisdom, where we're looking at reels and shorts and TikToks, and we're looking for the wisdom that we may find, because many of you spend at least part of your day doing this, right? Just scrolling away. And while there may be lots of foolishness, I think that there's also lots of wisdom to be found here. Now, I didn't anticipate this, but something's happened as I've been working on this series, is that I have to do a lot of scrolling to find all of the reels and shorts and TikToks that go into these sermons. Which means that people have come by my office in the last couple of weeks and they see me on my phone and they're like, "What are you doing? Aren't you working?" I'm like, "I'm researching." I have to go through so many to find the clips that we're using in these sermons. And I realize I've seen like a theme emerge as I've been going through lots and lots of them recently. And it's not the main theme this morning, but it's going to be the theme that we jump off of, okay? So here's the theme that I've realized. It's getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's fake. Have you had the scenario where like you're flipping through and something comes up and you're like, is that, I don't know. Like it's made to be kind of deceptive. Some of them are funny, some of them are like actually trying to deceive you, but have you noticed it's getting harder and harder to tell what's real? Here's an example.
Have you seen this reverse bald eagle carrying this puffer fish? So they are good pals. It's quite an amazing feat that an avian species that lives on land and air could become so close to a friend that lives in the water. So this is a daily ritual for them, where this reverse bald eagle comes down and grabs the puffer fish from the same spot in the water. They have a meetup place at a time, and it picks it up and then it flies it around to show it like, hey, this is what it's like to be outside of the water. I think it's incredible. The puffer fish does blow up and get big, and the reason why is if the reverse bald eagle here accidentally dropped it, it would float down to the ground like a balloon and then bounce like a bouncy ball and be okay. And so it's just more of a safety protocol mechanism. But, you know, spectators go to the Santa Monica Pier almost every day to view this because it's an incredible feat. I just think nature teaches us so much about being friends with each other and loving each other.
Nature teaches us so much about being friends with each other. Come on. That's not real, right? Someone's like, what? So, how many have like a mom that sends you videos like this? And they're like, have you seen this, honey? You're like, Mom, it's not real. Stop it, get off the TikTok. There's stuff like this, and you're like, was that, like, I prompted you, so you kind of knew what to look for, but when I first saw this, it took me like 15 seconds into the video, because at first you're like, well, the video looks real, so I mean, it looks like, I don't know, is it, maybe? But by the time they have a meetup spot every day, I was like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure now this is not real. We're at the point now where even my boys 12 and 10, they know how to make AI videos. And they didn't make these ones that I'm about to show you, but they could. They could just on their phone make videos that look as real as this.
Marks here at Willow Lane Elementary, where school officials are investigating reports of a mechanical failure affecting one of the district's. Just kidding, I'm not real.
Angela Carver live here on the Eastbridge Boardwalk as high surf conditions continue to batter the coastline ahead of tonight's expected storm surge. Just kidding, I'm not real. Natalie Burns here at the Jefferson County Courthouse, where protests have grown steadily throughout the morning. Just kidding, I'm not real. Angela Carter here live from the Cedar Grove flood disaster. Just kidding, I'm not real. This is Dana Brooks reporting live from Ocean View Beach. Just kidding, I'm not real. This is Charlotte Reed reporting live from Clearwater Beach, where an unidentified... Just kidding, I'm not real.
No, I'm not real. You're watching at home, Creekside Online. Guess what? No, I'm not real. You don't know. We're entering into this stage where everything on a screen is no longer trustworthy. I mean, debate whether or not it ever was, but we're definitely in a stage now where everything you see on this thing, you have to ask yourself, is that even real? I can't really trust that anymore. And so here's my hypothesis. Because the world is going to become less and less trusting of things that we see on screens, I think that this thing that we're doing, this thing where we're face to face, our bodies are in the same place as one another, will become more and more valuable. Which means, as followers of Jesus, and really just as humans in general, we should be interested in getting really good at face-to-face communication. We should be interested in being the best at conversations. And so today what we're going to do is we are going to scroll for conversational wisdom. My goal is to give you 3 really practical ideas, 3 really practical questions for you to think about to help you to become better at simple, everyday interactions and conversations. Because I think not only are we entering into a time where that's going to become more and more valuable, it always was supposed to be valuable. We were always created to be physically together. It's why God didn't just send an email. He came as himself. He came to physically be among us because physicality, incarnation, face-to-face matters. So before we begin to scroll for conversational wisdom today, let's go to the Bible and listen to what it has to say. Consistently, the Bible speaks about the power behind our speech, the power behind our words. In the book of Proverbs, which is a collection of wisdom literature, we get a line like this: the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The tongue, our words, our speech, have the power of life and the power of death. Simple idea, your tongue is powerful, and it can make life and it can make death. In the New Testament, the writer James, who's the brother of Jesus, has a similar kind of take on the power of the tongue. He says this, that we all stumble in many ways. Nobody's perfect, right? We all make mistakes. And yet anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. Isn't that a wild idea? Hey, nobody's perfect, but if you can control your tongue, you are perfect. He's saying, like, the power of the tongue is so strong that if you control it, the whole body will follow after. He then gives 2 examples. He says, when we put bits into the mouths of horses, those are like metal pieces we put in horses' mouths so that then when you pull on the reins, it moves the horse's head. When we put bits into horses' mouths to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they're so large and driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue is so powerful. Our words are so powerful. They can direct the course of our entire lives. Control this thing, and the rest of you will follow. Our words hold in them the power of life and death. How much time do you spend thinking about your words? I've heard verses like this most of my life. And I've often, like, if you were to ask me, like, just on the spot, how do you apply that to your life? I would quickly be like, oh, that's about like when you lose your temper or you're feeling emotional, be careful what you say because your words have the power of life and death. And I've often like connected it to, so be careful when you're angry what you say. And yet in doing that, I've always missed the whole other half of the meaning, which is be careful your words can bring death, but also your words can bring life. So how much time do you spend thinking about your words, and are they bringing life? And if you want to be a follower of Jesus, like our number 1 command as followers of Jesus is to love one another, Wouldn't it be loving to use your words to bring life to other people? Well, in order to do that, it's going to take some real intention. And so today, well, like I said before, I just want to give you 3 really practical questions to ask and reflect on, and 3 really simple ideas that I think if you apply them to your normal everyday conversations, you will become a person who brings life and love to the people that you talk to. So, idea number 1, ask better questions. We're going to watch a reel now. It's about 2 minutes long. It's the longest reel that we have this morning from Vanessa Van Edwards, who is a body language and human interaction specialist. She does lots of research and has written many best-selling books. But here's what she says about asking better questions.
Stop asking, what do you do? Stop asking, how are you? Stop asking, how's it going? That's why you hate people. If you're asking those questions, of course you're going to hate people. Those are the most boring questions anyone's ever asked. Can I give you a challenge?
Yeah.
A challenge. Here's one challenge from this podcast. Stop asking, what do you do? For 30 days, I want you to go on a what do you do diet. Also asking someone what do you do is asking what are you worth? And if someone's not defined by what they do, it's actually a rude question. You're going to replace it with working on anything exciting these days or working on anything exciting recently. This is permission connection. You ask someone that question, you are giving them permission. If they want to tell you about what they do, oh, they will. If they are not defined by what they do, they'll tell you something better. And that also gives you really good nuggets for the next time you see them when you can say, hey, how was that thing you were working on that was really exciting going? So start with working on anything exciting these days, working on anything exciting right now. Second, what's your biggest goal right now? When you ask this question, you're gonna get one of 2 responses. One, someone shuts you down. Yeah. I don't believe in goals. Not my person. I'm a growth-minded person. If someone says that, I'm like, cool. We're not gonna get along very well because I have a lot of goals. Or they're gonna be like, oh, and they're going to tell you all about goals. That's also a great thing you can follow up on, because then when you see them a month later or a week later or a year later, you can be like, hey, how did that go? Okay, so working on anything exciting, what's your goal right now? And then this is harder. This is a self-narrative question. Do we want to go deeper for a self-narrative question?
Of course we want to go deeper.
If we're getting into self-narrative and you're trying to figure out yourself or someone else's narrative, you want to ask the question. It sounds innocuous, but it's not. What book, movie, or TV character is most like you? How someone relates to characters, their values or personality, is how they see themselves. And people's answers will shock you. I'll give you one example. I was friends with someone for 6 years. She's a mom of 3, super funny, super savvy. I was like, she's gonna pick a great TV mom character, that's super savvy and funny. Asked her. She thinks about it for maybe 1 second and goes, Katniss Everdeen's from The Hunger Games. I was like, the one who's fighting for her life? She's like, yeah, that's how I feel every day. And we, for the first time in 6 years, had a conversation about how she feels about her day that was totally different than anything I had ever known. That she feels scared and lonely and that she's fighting for survival. And it was the first time that I truly connected with her.
In about 17 minutes, this sermon will end. You will rise from your seats. You will look to someone that you do not know, and you will ask them one of these questions. This is your mission if you choose to accept it. Or you can get up from your seat and you can say, hey, how are you? Fine. How are you? Fine. What do you do? What do you do? So let's review. 3 questions. I want you to pick one of these and ask somebody here before you leave. And if it doesn't go well, just send me an email. That was a terrible idea, but I tried it. Okay. Working on anything exciting recently. Simple. You working on anything exciting recently? What's your biggest goal right now? This next one's my favorite, though. What book, movie, or TV character is most like you? Now, please try to listen to the rest of my sermon instead of thinking of your answer, because it's tempting. It's tempting to think, which one am I going to say? I don't want to say the wrong one. I'm going to make sure I know all the things. Don't worry about it, but just ask one of those questions and see where the conversation might go. One of the things, if you look at her work and listen to her longer form podcast of her work, is she talks about how most of us fall into scripts, cultural scripts that exist that we all just kind of play along to, and no one's just stepping back and going, why do we all ask the same questions? Why do we all kind of have the same sort of back and forth when we meet new people? Can't we break free of that and have some new offerings that might lead to better conversations, that might lead to better relationships? She says yes. So try one of these 3 questions. She also has this whole thing where she talks about how we can come to like people more. Check out this clip about how to like people more.
What have you always wanted to learn? This question is a gift because it gifts growth mindset. When you become known for asking these questions, you make people better. And here's the best part. I think the reason I didn't like people is I was asking the wrong questions. Of course I didn't like people if I was staying on social scripts. Of course I found it hard to like people when we were all on brain-dead autopilot. Asking these questions gives you authentic reasons to like. When you hear these answers, you're like, I didn't know that about you. I like that about you. So the secret motivation here is that it gives you reasons to like people because you're hearing authentic answers.
Now, some of you just heard her say, of course I didn't like people because we're all just on brain-dead autopilot. And you were like, what do you mean? There's people that don't like other people? Yes, hello, nice to meet you. We're called introverts, and you other people drain all of our energy, and you're just, it's really difficult. We like to sign up for things like this, where like, you all be quiet and I'll talk. So, no, I'm just kidding. But some of you are like, I don't understand what she's talking about, like hard to like people. But then the other half of us that are introverts are like, I know what you mean. It's hard to like people. And she has a great idea. She says, maybe it's because you're just staying on the same boring, brain-dead social scripts. What if you break free of that and ask better questions? Questions like the 3 that we looked at before, or questions like she just said in this last clip. What have you always wanted to learn? What if we break free from the normal questions and we have some new questions that lead to better conversations? Maybe then we'll find, oh, it wasn't that we didn't like people. It's that we don't like the common social scripts. We're more interested in getting to some deeper conversations. So, idea number 1 for you this morning, ask better questions. Idea number 2, ask follow-up questions. Ask follow-up questions. Here's a clip about this.
All right, here's something I want to get better at. Let me know if you're in the same boat. When you tell me your opinion, when you share something that's important to you, I have a tendency to hear that as an invitation for me to talk now and give you my opinion on that subject. So I'll either disagree and I'll let you know why, or I'll agree and I'll say, yeah, you're absolutely right. Or if I feel like you forgot some things, I'll be like, yeah, but did you think about this? But do you know one thing I didn't do? Hold space for you to elaborate. One thing I forgot to do is actually explore your perspective before launching into my own. Maybe ask a follow-up question or two. When someone tells me something that's important to them, maybe I shouldn't immediately try to make it all about me and my thoughts and my opinions. Maybe I should get curious about their experience first, instead of story-topping or correcting them or arguing or even agreeing. What if instead I asked a follow-up question? What led you to feel that way or think that way? Because I had never asked that, and I bet I would learn a lot more about you and your life and what happened to you to shape your beliefs if I took an intentional interest in listening instead of just talking.
In 13 minutes, you will find yourselves getting up from your seats, and you will turn to the people around you, and they'll begin to tell you about their lives. And while they're talking, you'll get a sense of like, I think that they're winding down their story. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say next? Because we can't have the dreaded silence. So I need to have something to say. And what will your brain do? It will offer up default options for you. Do I agree with what they're saying? Do I disagree with what they're saying? Maybe I have a story that goes along with what their story, something that they're talking about. I had the exact same thing happen to me. And so you offer up one of those things, which communicates to the person who just shared something about their lives or something that happened to them that you weren't listening. You were thinking about what to say next to fill that gap. Now, I'm not going to get you to the place where you're going to be comfortable with silence. But what if you could get to the place where you just started to have different questions that became your default questions? What if your default things to react to people sharing their lives with you weren't, how am I going to share? How am I going to turn this about me? How am I going to agree or disagree? What if I could ask follow-up questions? Questions that sound like this. What led you to feel that way? Or how about this one? This works for anything, anywhere. Tell me more about that. Imagine if when someone was telling you about, hey, I went to Uganda recently. It's part of my church. We did this and we did that and that. You weren't thinking like, oh, I went to Uganda once. I went on a mission trip. Instead, you're like, that thought will come up and you go, yeah, but this isn't about me. And you throw that in the back. And you go, tell me more about that. Tell me more about your experience. Tell me more. And what if you could get to the place where sometimes that thing that you want to like share also, you just never even need to bring it up. You're okay with social interactions that are just all about the other person and never have to turn to be about you. This is a way of loving people. It's a way of serving people. It's a way of expressing care for other people. Idea number 1, ask better questions. Idea number 2, ask follow-up questions. Idea number 3, be vulnerable. Well, be vulnerable, guys. Here's a video of two guys trying to be vulnerable.
So how are things with you and Sarah? Actually, we broke up a few days ago. Oh my gosh, sorry. How are you? How you doing? You know, are you like okay? Or? Yeah, I'm like tear my heart open. Shoot, like heart like ripped out. You know, shoot. And I'm like, yeah, shoot you right in the heart, kid. Ouch. Yeah, it just takes time, you know. Time heals all things, Frodo Baggins. Thank you for that. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Well, I'm here for you. If you never need to rest your little head. I appreciate it. You are a good friend. You could be my wingman anytime. Tom Cruise. All's well that ends well.
77 years ago.
The force be with you.
Here's looking at you.
Less traveled by, and that's made.
Don't look a dead horse in the mouth.
I love you.
Can we talk about sports?
Yeah, I love sports.
I love you. I love you. That video is painful to watch. It's even more painful when you're like in a group of people and you're like, hey guys, watch this. It's so painful, just like how being vulnerable can be painful. Being vulnerable is painful because what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is opening yourself up to the possibility of being wounded. Right? Think about it in battle terms. Like when you're vulnerable on the battlefield, what could happen to you? You could get stabbed in the heart and you could die. So don't be vulnerable. But being vulnerable, while it opens you up to being wounded, that is true, it also opens you up to deeper human connection. And there's a deep strength that can be found in vulnerability. When I was a young father and my kids were little and they were in like diaper stage, I remember having a friend come over who was a father in the same stage, like his kids were kind of the same age. And we were doing the normal social script. I was making coffee and I threw out the normal like, how you doing, man? Expecting the fine, how are you? But he breaks the social code and drops actually I'm feeling kind of lonely. It's like, oh, that's the wrong answer, man. What's going on? He opened himself up to potentially be wounded by my quick, sharp-witted humor. But instead, I reflected what he said. I said, yeah, I know what you mean. This whole like being a father of like young kids, it's kind of tough. Like I mean, I love my family, I love my kids, I love my wife, but like there's less time. There's less energy. I feel like I don't have the same friendships and the same connections that I used to have. Even we don't get to hang out the way that we used to before. And suddenly that moment of vulnerability that probably felt like a little bit like, I don't know if I should say this, led to this deep connection and the beginning of a great friendship. I was watching a podcast a couple months ago, and I listen to all kinds of podcasts. I like to listen to like the whole spectrum, left wing, right wing. This podcast happened to be right wing, which sometimes has a little bit of a, two guys at right wing podcast has a little bit of a macho man kind of thing, which, sometimes isn't so bad. But in this case, went off the rails. One of the guys offered up the phrase, because, I would never cry in front of my wife, to which the other guy, like lightning, responded, oh, of course not. Like they were so afraid that make sure everybody knows that we would never cry in front of our wives, right? Because we're men. It was the weirdest thing. That wasn't even what they were talking about, but it was like, because I would never cry in front of my wife. Oh, of course not, I would never. And I was thinking, how many guys are watching this thinking, looking for like a role model of what it means to be a man. And they make a little mental note, oh, these guys, they would never cry in front of their wives. I guess that's what it means to have a healthy marriage, strength. I can tell you that the times that I have cried in front of my wife have led to some of the most intimate moments that we've had and have strengthened our relationship in some of the most powerful ways that we ever had. If you think that not being vulnerable with your wife, that not being vulnerable with your friends is actually helping, it's not. It's a lie. And it's keeping you from the deeper connection that your soul actually craves and needs and that you were created for. When I started preaching, I had this idea in my head that when people encouraged me or said something like, hey, that sermon was good, I liked it, or God spoke to me through those words, I had this idea in my head that like what it means to be humble is to say like, well, it's not about me. It's about the big God. I don't really care what you think. I care about what the audience of one. So, I don't really need your encouragement. And I would kind of have this air of attempted humility and attempted like strength, like I don't need encouragement. And you know what that did after doing that for a couple years, what it created? It created a scenario where nobody encouraged me anymore. Because everyone who had tried to encourage me, it was like they got a kick in the face. Like, I don't take that crap. I don't need that. I don't need any of that. I just need connection with. And so a couple years ago, I intentionally shifted. I made a real intentional shift because what that led me to was feeling like alone and weak. Because I don't find this to be easy. This is like a battle every week to learn, like get new content, research, memorize, get ready, like hope that it's gonna help somebody. This is a battle every week. And so it wasn't true that I didn't need their encouragement. And so a couple years ago, I made an intentional shift that whenever somebody encouraged me, I would say to them, thank you so much, I needed that. I need your encouragement. I need your prayers. And what that has done over the last few years is created an army of people that pray for me and that send me nice emails and that meet me at the front every once in a while and tell me how God's using the things that I'm teaching to impact their lives. When I tried to be strong, I actually ended up being weak. When I embraced my weakness, I found a new strength. Vulnerability opens us up to deeper connection, and there's this hidden strength that you will find when you're vulnerable with the right people. So 3 ideas for us this morning. Ask better questions. Ask follow-up questions, and be vulnerable. And it may feel like you're like trying to be someone that you're not, but let me ask you this question, like the person that you are right now in your conversations probably wasn't like an intentional choice. It's probably just a social script that you learned along the way. So why not learn a better one? Why not learn to ask better questions, to be a better listener, to be vulnerable, and see what the power of your words might do, what life the power of your words might bring. This morning, as I always do, I was looking at my sermon again, and I was looking at the outline, and I'm like, it feels like it's missing something. And I had this feeling like, I got, a little checklist, like, is the Bible in there? Is it about the Bible? Yeah, okay, I got my Bible, got my wisdom literature. I got, okay, it was teachings of Jesus. Yeah, like love. I mean, the idea of love is kind of like the over umbrella. I was like, I think it needs more Jesus. So I was like, let's put him at the end then. Let's close with Jesus. Can't go wrong. So I started thinking about Jesus. I'm like, what do you think it was like to have a conversation with Jesus? In the Gospels, Jesus asks over 300 questions. Some of those are repeats, right? Because the Gospels repeat the same stories. But Jesus was the master question asker. Jesus asked so many great, what is it that you want me to do for you? Do you want to get well? Sometimes before he'd tell a parable, he'd say, what do you think? And after he taught the parable of the Good Samaritan, he says, so who was a neighbor to the man who fell by the side of the road? Jesus was awesome at asking questions that led to deep, powerful, life-changing conversations. Jesus was great at asking. Did Jesus ask maybe the follow-up idea is hard to find an exact example, but the idea of caring more for the person that you're talking to than about what you have to say, about being genuinely interested and loving the person that you're talking to. Oh, I think we can check Jesus off the list for that one. He came to serve, not to be served. And how about being vulnerable? Was Jesus vulnerable? Jesus is God in the flesh. Jesus could have come down and be like, I'm God. I'm not vulnerable. I'm the most invulnerable person you can ever imagine. And yet he was fully human and embraced our humanity so much to the point where he was vulnerable and he was weak. There's a story in the Gospels about when Jesus is in the wilderness and he's tempted. And the narrator tells us in this story that Jesus goes out into the wilderness and he's fasted and he's hungry. And and then he's tempted by the accuser, by the Satan, and after that, angels have to come and minister to him because he's so weak. So you get this weak picture of Jesus. While he's able to say no to the temptations, he's also hungry, and by the end of it, he has to call on heaven, heaven, help me. Now you may be thinking, well, how's that an example of vulnerability? Because he's by himself. Yeah, he's by himself. So wait, how do we know that story then if he was by himself? I guess he must have had to tell somebody. And so I imagine Jesus at some point got together with his disciples and said, hey guys, sit down. Let me tell you about a time I was in the wilderness and I was so hungry. And I had to face these temptations and I faced them for you. But by the end of it, my soul was I had nothing left. And it was only by the grace of God sending these heavenly beings to me to help me and pick me back up again. Guys, you have no idea. I know what it's like to feel weak. And when you feel weak, know that I felt the same thing. Jesus must have had to at some point be vulnerable and share that story with his disciples for them to know and for us to know today. In the night before he goes to the cross, when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, he gets his 3 closest followers and he pulls them away and asks them to pray. And he says, I am overcome with sorrow, so much to the point of death. Guys, I feel like I'm dying inside. Will you please pray for me? Can you imagine the vulnerability of, if you could imagine God in the flesh is here with us. Do you imagine a God that's crying, being like, can you guys please pray for me? I don't think I can go on. And yet that's the vulnerability that we see modeled in Jesus. And so this sermon, in one sense, is just 3 simple ideas to help you with your conversations. But in another deeper level, it is 3 ways to be more like Jesus. Meaning that if you were to embody these 3 things, that I think people, when they talk to you, would get a better taste of what it's like to be with Jesus. So, this summer, may you intentionally think about your words, knowing that within your words are the power to bring death and the power to bring life. Let's pray before we go. Jesus, we want to be known as people who bring life into the world and life abundant, people who bring love into the world. Help us to do this by taming our tongues, so that we can wield this power that brings life. God, help us to do this as a church body, as a community. Help us to care about each other more, ask better questions, be vulnerable with one another, and may you knit us together as we do this to be this group of people called your church. Jesus, we love you. Help us to do these things by the power of your Spirit. We ask these things to our Father in heaven in your name. Amen.